This file has been flagged by
the City Parental Community of Responsible Ratings
as potentially disturbing to users under the age of 0. Enjoy your session.
I stood there, my hand hovering over the panel. I backed away. Father Micuh had stopped crying and was staring blankly at his hands. I ran to the monitor and began searching for something, anything that could tell me what to do. A vid opened and began to play.
If you're hearing this, my name is Jake Williamson. I was a contractor here on the base. If you're hearing this, you have to leave. Don't stay. They'll take you. They'll take you. They took the others. Please. Oh God. They're coming.
I looked at Father Micuh. His eyes glazed over. What had he done? I walked over to him, looked deep into his eyes, then I slapped him. He shook his head and looked at me dumbly. I pointed to the vid on his screen, and his eyes filled with tears once more. "They only demanded blood," he whispered. "They let us pray, but I had to give them something. I had no choice." I stood up and backed away slowly. The words were piercing my ears, a ringing, filling my head. "We will be safe here, my child. They only want just a little more, don't you see?" A small smile spread across his face as he closed his eyes. "They will leave soon, and all will be as it was." Another scream filled the corridor outside, closer than before. I ran to the door and opened it. I heard him muttering to himself over and over, "As it was, as it was." The rage and fear filled me as I took a step into the hallway. When it suddenly became clear, Father Micuh's door hung open and I looked back at him. He looked into my eyes and stopped his selfish chant. "Child, no!" I formed a fist and a hot rage ran through my veins. "Child!" he yelled. I smashed the console, hard enough to shatter it. The door would not close. I ran down the hallway as fast as I could, into the darkness. His wailing faded behind me, and I took comfort knowing I would never hear his voice again. The moon was alive now. Everything creaked and groaned. Overhead, the vents scurried with creatures, and the sounds of panic screams pierced through the air like a knife. I made my way quickly down into the tunnels that led into the docking bay. I was at the mouth of the bay when I heard it ahead of me. I took cover behind some boxes and I looked out. In the shadow, there were dozens of creatures unlike anything I had ever seen. Their claws, razor-sharp, jaws quivered with hunger. They moved slowly along the wall, barely visible to the naked eye. Then another sound. Footsteps, in a sprint, quickly approaching. The creatures, they heard it too. Their heads turning towards the bay entrance on the opposite side. They moved quickly and quietly across the massive bay and clung to the wall above the mouth, waiting for the footsteps. I felt my heart race faster, but my feet felt cemented to the ground. The footsteps were nearly here. The creatures growled in anticipation. Liza turned the corner and entered the hangar, and my blood went cold. "Liza!" The scream was caught in my throat. My silence stayed unbroken as they leapt from the wall onto her. I fell to my knees and tried to block out the screams. Then I felt it. Beneath my hand, the cold touch of something different. I pulled the rifle from the shadows. I lifted it to my shoulder as if I had done it every day for 1,000 lifetimes. Creatures turned and rushed me. Their skulls became riddled with holes and their bodies crumpled to the floor. Several had flanked to my right and were closing in, but the bayonet pierced their eyes like a light. their black blood covering everything. I felt liberated. I felt enlightened. My smile faded as my eyes fell to Liza's body. I ran to her and knelt down. Her breathing was shallow and gasping for life. I took her hand and she looked at me in the eyes. Her mouth opened and she broke her vow. "Home," she gasped. "Go home." She looked past me, into the open ceiling, smiling as her eyes faded. I followed her gaze and saw Earth shining down on us. There is no home, I thought. Looking down at my robes, I saw that they were covered in the black blood of my enemies, the white almost completely erased. I stood and walked towards Father Micuh's old ship. He once told us we were blessed by the moon, and I felt the white, hot rage fill me at the thought of such a lie. The moon was death filled with darkness and despair. I was leaving a traitor, a coward, and a killer. If I had ever been blessed at all in my life, I knew one thing for certain. I was leaving cursed.